We are very happy that you could join us today for the RITIS user group web meeting. We're going to start off as we normally do with just a few housekeeping items. We are using Zoom webinar. Please use either your computer or phone for your audio connection, whichever works better for you. This web meeting is being recorded. If you have any questions about the web or the audio, please reach out to Esther. And using Zoom webinar, we're going to be using the Q&A for questions. So any questions you have for our various speakers today, please feel free to put them in the Q&A box. So a little bit more about that. Just click on the Q&A icon, type in your question, and we'll keep track of those, and they'll either be answered at the end of the presentation or at the end of the meeting. If you'd like to ask a question verbally, please raise your hand, and that lets us know that you would like to ask a question verbally, and we will be able to unmute your line. So for those of you who do not know, unfortunately for those of us with the Eastern Transportation Coalition, Denise Marco will be retiring. We want to wish her all the best. All of you know how much she's meant to the coalition and how much she's done for the coalition. And we wish her continued happiness and success as she continues on her many adventures. Denise?
Yeah, I'll get back at you later. Thanks, Joanna. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, hi. Welcome, everyone. We have a great, as always with the RITIS user groups, we have a great session coming up, so I won't belabor the fact. Let's go to the next slide, please. All right. As tradition, we always give you an update in terms of what we've had recently for coalition meetings in terms of also what's upcoming. So as you can tell, recently we've had 2 analytic platforms, vendor forums. We took some of the Streetlight Insight or EV4 IoT with Stellar Moonshadow. We had a couple vendor forums, invite only for our members, to give you guys more of an idea of what's out there. And so it was very well received. I hopefully will plan to do more with whoever succeeds me in the coming years. We've done some the RITIS Enhancement Working Group meeting, again, invite only. I believe you can send Michael or even Bob Frey an email about possibly joining if you're interested in looking at how they are working with. This is a pooled funding concept, and they look at ways to improve the RITIS platform. Very, very, very cool group, and they do a lot of good work. Workshop number 4, twice a year in our strategic plan, we've done 2 RITIS workshops. So in just this April 20th, Greg Jordan and Rick Ayers did a workshop on trip analytics. Again, it was very, very well done, very helpful to those who I think attended to learn more about how to create reports and how to actually work with some of the data. We had on March 16th, a travel information virtual summit, and that really focused on traveler information for truck notifications. There was a session on how the Pennsylvania Turnpike looked at how they're configuring data feeds for lane configurations for Waze to help with audible alerts. We had one network come in and talk about how they do data integration from the beginning, moving it into a traffic management system. And then we talked a lot about DriveWise and some of the showcase presentations from the states that are actually using that to collect data or collect notifications to send to the trucks. Okay. And lastly, we're doing 2 strategic planning sessions for TSMO. For the future, we had one on April 13th. It focused on traveler information and incident management and some of our training academies. For those of you that are interested, we're having one tomorrow, May 5th in the morning. I think it's on the, is it coming up? Nope, it's not shown there. May 5th tomorrow in the morning, about 10 o'clock. Talk about data and what you might want for ideas of data, whether it's webinars or workshops or projects. So if you're interested and want to attend, then please shoot me an email and we'll put you on a list and get you the invite. What's upcoming? May 8th, 9th, and 10th, which is literally next week, there's going to be a large distracted driving move over conference. It's called a Unified Approach to Driving Change on the Roadway. There's about 160 attendees so far, really focusing on safety on the roadways. Senator Coons is opening up with a video welcome from Delaware. And then we have a large, the stakeholders and many are law enforcement, towing, incident responders, TSMO leads for the DOTs. Should be a pretty good conference. The vendor forum we just started to put this together. This is a volume. The volume data sets out of the TDM On May 25th, we're going to have a vendor forum. We have, I believe, 4 of the data set vendors will be showcasing what they can do with volume. Again, invite only of our members. The invite should be coming out sometime next week, so look for that if you're interested. And last, an info sharing event on June 28th, talking about considerations for digital infrastructure. I believe that invite has also gone out already, Joanna. So as you can tell, a lot going on, continuing what we've done and what we're doing moving forward. So that was a mouthful. Next slide, please. The Transportation Data Marketplace. Here's our new TDM webpage. Here's the 6 data sets that we offer through the TDM, the 12 vendors, and the automated DUA process. This is just an overview. If you're interested in looking at how we procure data, who the vendors are, you can go to these links. And if you have an affiliate or you have a planning agency, if you're one of the states that's buying umbrella data, they can get online, fill out a DUA, and get access to your data. Again, if you want more information on that you don't know about, shoot me an email and we'll get it done. All right, next slide. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Jesse Burke. He's the manager of Office of Capital Programs for DVRC. He is DVRPC, what a mouthful. But he is also what I said, one of our super duper RITIS user co-chairs. He's been here for a while and he's just a great co-chair. Jesse, it's been a pleasure. So with that being said, off you go.
Thanks, Denise. Congrats on retirement. I appreciate that. I think 3 out of the 4 pictures we showed there were in our DVRPC conference room. So you're officially welcome back anytime. So please continue to visit us and let us know what you're doing.
Thanks, Jess.
Thanks everybody for joining us this afternoon. As always, we have some great presentations to share with you. 2 spotlight presentations, one of which talking about assessing benefits of ITS deployments in Louisiana. Really excited to have some folks joining us, as we kind of expand our reach across the country. Just really exciting to have more and more great partners joining us here. Our second spotlight presentation will be coming from Greg Jordan about using some of the new origin destination data, looking at kind of before and after implementation of a new freeway link. So some really interesting analysis. John Allen will be providing some PDA Suite performance reporting working group updates. Always a lot going on there. Similarly, always a lot of enhancements going on. So Bob Frey and Michael Pack will walk us through kind of all the latest RITIS product enhancements and updates. And then we'll get into our agency input session and hopefully have some good discussion and dialogue. So just, as a reminder to everyone, as we go through all the different presentations, if you have questions, if you have things you want to discuss, things that you've been doing with the tools, please feel free to use the chat, raise your hand so we can have some good discussion throughout this webinar. Next slide, please. So just to walk through and introduce all of our speakers for today. Michael Pack, most of you know, is the director of the CATT lab at the University of Maryland, where he works to make transportation data more easily accessible and usable by operations planners and researchers, all of us on the call today. And he's previously worked at the University of Virginia and Oak Ridge National Laboratory. Very excited to have Dr. Julius Codjoe joining us today. Julius is a special studies research administrator at the Louisiana Transportation Research Center. Julius manages the Special Studies Division, which comprises a bunch of different areas, including planning, policy, intermodal, safety, traffic, operations, and intelligent transportation systems. So really bringing a lot of different perspectives today. And he's also an assistant research professor at University of Louisiana at Lafayette, where he teaches several ITS courses. We also excited to have Stephen Mensah with us today. Stephen is an associate traffic engineer with Stantec, where he has expertise in traffic analysis, highway safety modeling and analysis, intelligent transportation systems planning, and systems engineering analysis. He's supported the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development, as well as Tennessee Department of Transportation and South Carolina Department of Transportation as they're updating their statewide intelligent transportation systems architectures, including several regional ITS architectures in Louisiana. So he has experience collaborating with MPOs, local emergency services, and other stakeholders. We also have with us today Greg Jordan. Greg, prior to joining the CATT Lab, Greg managed a helicopter survey company conducting origin, destination, and routing surveys using aerial video to trace vehicles. And so, now he's helping us to understand the new INRIX trip paths data and all that prior experience kind of feeding into the new capabilities that we have with trip analytics. John Allen assists in user experience and interface development, working at the CATT Lab as an outreach and education faculty assistant. He helps with user experience, user interface development, QA/QC, managing special projects, and developing strategic directions for RITIS and the Probe Data Analytics Suite. John's facilitated a number of kind of subgroups and organizations, including partners and using archived operations data, going back in the day for folks involved very early in all of these efforts that we're here talking about. And last but not least, we have Bob Frey. Bob is the Director of Project-Oriented Planning in the Office of Transportation Planning at Massachusetts DOT. Bob's worked in a variety of roles at MassDOT for more than 2 decades, and most recently, his main focus has been vehicle probe and GPS data, which brings him here with us today, managing MassDOT's RITIS contract, and he's participated in a variety of coalition meetings, so he's probably a familiar face to a lot of folks on the call today. So thank you to all of our speakers for joining us today, and we're looking forward to these presentations. Next slide, please. Also, just want a huge thanks, as always, to everybody participating today. It's always really exciting to look at this slide and just, see the coverage growing across the country. We used to really be East Coast, Florida to Maine, and that was pretty cool in itself. Now we're, reaching into the middle of the country, down south, out west, Midwest. So just a huge thanks to everyone for joining today. We appreciate having you here and hope you, learn some great things with how to use these tools today. Next slide. So we're going to launch into a couple of quick polls here, just, wanting to get a better understanding of how you use these tools. So our first question is, what type of presentations and topics would you like to hear about during these meetings? This is an open-ended answer, so please, type in the types of presentations, issues that you might be struggling with, types of data analysis you'd like to learn more about, what other folks are doing, any ideas that you have for us as we look to develop presentations going forward. So just give folks a little bit of time to enter that. And any and all ideas welcome here. And as always, we would encourage folks, if you have presentations, use cases that you've put together with the various tools, please reach out. We're always looking for presentations. It's a chance to present to this nationwide group of your peers and get feedback and help share best practices.
Looks like we still have some folks typing, so we'll give it another few seconds.
Give everybody a little more time since it's not multiple choice, open-ended here.
Yeah, sorry about that. Starting right after, right after lunch with an open-ended question. We should have started with, one of those easy multiple
We're making you
choice.
think. Hopefully everybody had some coffee. But appreciate all of your thoughts and suggestions.
Okay. I think we can probably close this one now. Okay. Unfortunately, because it is open-ended, we're not able to share those results with you, but you will receive that information at a later time. Okay, next poll.
Okay, so the next poll is more of a multiple choice here. So we want to know, how do you use the data and visualization results from RITIS tools? Do you use them directly to develop products like reports, maps, and so forth? Or do you download the data and use your own in-house tools to create tables and visuals, or do you do a little bit of both? I bet a lot of folks do a little bit of both, but it'll definitely be interesting to see, how is everyone using these tools? Always want to know more about how everyone is using the tools so that we can do a better job of kind of catering it all to what you're actually doing here. Give folks a little bit of time to select from these options here.
Okay, I think we'll close that. We're going to close that poll now. And we can share those results.
Yep. As I kind of suspected there, a lot of folks doing a little bit of both, but also a lot of folks, kind of downloading directly or, really just bringing data in and using your own tools. So really appreciate that feedback. Next slide. All right, one more poll here. Who is your primary audience for sharing information that was developed from RITIS and PDA suite tools? So is it kind of your peers? Is it management? Is it executive leadership, elected officials, or general public? And again, probably you're sharing things to multiple audience, but what we're trying to ask here is who's your primary audience? So when you're using these tools, more often, which of these audiences are you kind of focused on?
Okay, looks like folks have stopped voting, so we can end that and share.
Okay, a lot of folks focusing primarily on peers or management. Definitely these tools are very helpful for that. So thank you again, great feedback to have. Next slide. All right, so now we are on to our presentations. Again, this first presentation is using RITIS to assess benefits of some ITS deployments in Louisiana. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Julius Codjoe to introduce the presentation and then hand it off to Stephen. So go ahead, Julius. Thank you.
Thank you, Jace. So I'm Julius Codjoe, and as you may have heard, I have two hats, my university hat and my DOT hat. For this session, though, I'm wearing my DOT hat. Also, in case you haven't noticed, for Louisiana, we have a D at the end of our DOT. So ours is Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development. I work for LTRC. LTRC is the research arm of DOTD. I also manage our RITIS contract. So part of my job is to drum up interest within our DOTD folks, our districts, our MPOs, and our consultants to use this suite of analytical tools and probe data that we now possess. In fact, after this session, I'm jumping onto a meeting with Exceptional Rick AS, and we're going to drum some plans about how we can get more people on board to use the tools that we have. So it is with much joy that I get to introduce one of our consultants who did some work for us, Dr. Steve Mensah. Steve did a great job using the RITIS data to assess the benefits of some ITS deployments in the States. Is few of the consultants that we've been trying to encourage is one of the very few ones who've actually used it. So I'm going to hand over to Steve. Steve can share with us what he found and what he did for us. Thank you, Steve. You can take over now.
Okay. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. First and foremost, thank you, Julius, for the collaboration we've had in the past and also introducing me to the RITIS user group. I thank you also for allowing me to be part of this presentation. As we mentioned, we're just trying to use data-driven methods to assess benefits of ITS in Louisiana. Now, the DOT has many ITS assets on the roadways. We have a whole list of them on the left-hand side showing cameras, TMCs, DMSs, detectors, and then we have a count of all those devices on the roadways. And more often than not, sometimes I sit and wonder, what is the actual value of these ITS assets that we've deployed And then what benefits have accrued since these deployments? We continue to deploy them anyway. And then what benefit cost ratio for these ITS systems that we have? The Federal Highway Administration has a website that can help you figure out some of these ITS deployments and their benefits. It's the ITS deployment evaluation, where they've done a whole bunch of benefit cost ratios of ITS deployments around the country. So if you need information, that's a good place to start from. And then also we have the CMF Clearinghouse, where you can find impacts of ITS on crashes if you want to do that kind of evaluation with it. But for me, a lot of my work borders on systems engineering analysis. If you're familiar with the V diagram, this is the framework within which Federal Highway Administration wants us to deploy ITS. We start off on the left-hand side with original ITS architectures. And as you come down, you do your stakeholder engagements, develop a concept of operations, figure out what requirements you need. And then as you further decompose the system, you come up with components that come together to provide certain functions, and then you build up, eventually you build a system. Each time you're checking and making sure that whatever you're building would meet the user needs. And then once the system is built and validated, off to operations and maintenance, and however many years it stays in operation, you may come back and decommission it or upgrade it or make a complete change. But one thing we don't do is during this operation stage, come back with the data we've gleaned from operations to inform the next phase of deployment. So this became something that I was passionate about. It became a motivation for me, that especially after Julius introduced me to RITIS, I was like, okay, this is great, this is fantastic. Now I can begin to use RITIS to assess the ITS deployments and make decisions, more informed decisions when it comes to the system engineering phase, where pretty much I help decide what kinds of systems will go on the roadway. So I'm really excited about this. And right now, DOTD is also pivoting towards TISMO approaches. We have no other way than to always analyze and figure out the performance of what we are putting on the roadway, just so we can maximize the existing capacities or the capacities of the existing roadway systems and put our dollars a little bit more effectively. So I'm using one project that we worked on, which is Alexandria Phase 3 as a case study. Alexandria is almost in the middle of the state of Louisiana, as you can see on the right-hand side in the map with an inset. There's I-49, which, let me see if I can use this. I-49, which runs parallel to the MacArthur Drive corridor, which is US 71. And what we had done was there was signal communications upgrades, connecting all the signal controllers with fiber optics, and then deploying some CCTV cameras, and then also dynamic message signs on the southern end, and then on the northern end near the I-49 interchanges to help with incident traffic monitoring and incident management. So that project was commissioned in 2020. So once it was done, my goal was, okay, now that I have a RITIS, access to RITIS PDA analytics, let me go back and take the month of October in 2019 and compare it to the month of October in 2022, which is the post-deployment period, to see what would happen or what changed in the corridor. I use Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, typical days that we use for traffic data collection and analysis. And then from 6 a.m. AM period, 6 to 8 a.m., and then midday, 1 to 3 p.m., and then afternoon PM peak of 4 to 6 p.m. I first looked at traffic counts in the area. There's a big traffic circle in the middle of the project. And traffic counts 2018 was about, in the north side segment here, was about 40,000 ADT, and it stays almost the same in 2022. And then in 2019 for the south side, we can see a big jump of 3,000. I had that in mind just to see what was going on in the corridor. Now with the RITIS-PDA analytics, there's a whole suite of analyses that you can perform, and those that I used in this analysis are highlighted with the orange border: performance summaries, travel time delta ranking, temporal comparison maps, performance charts, bottleneck ranking, travel time comparison, and then causes of congestions graphs. So I'll talk about the outcomes of these analyses presently. So here we're seeing the results of the speed profile of the corridor from what is in orange is for October of 2019, and what is in green is for same October of 2022. And right off the bat, you can tell there was some 2022 showed a slight decrease in speeds during the peak period. 2019 did better. And then as we move into the midday and period, 2022 seems to show slightly higher speeds. And then after the PM peak period, we are seeing 2019 showing higher speeds. There are tool tips within the suite, analytics suite that you can use. So depending on which location that you want to look at, once you click on it, you have these tool tips. So looking at the AM peak period, we can see 40.7 miles per hour during 2019, and then a speed of 39.4 miles per hour during 2022. Not a huge difference, but at least it helps us see how speeds were trending in the corridor. Same data arranged differently by day of the week. The first three that you see, 2019, midday, morning peak, midday, and then PM peak. And then the next three for 2022 would be the same order of morning, midday, and PM peak. And then for the different days, you can tell looking across, there isn't much change in the AM, not so much change in the midday as well, but slight improvement in speeds when you look at the PM period for 2022. So there is also the suite for temporal comparison of speed. So I'm looking spatially at where there are speed differentials. And so I have 2019 and then 2022, and then the differences, which is the delta. Especially you can tell. And you have the scale down here on the right-hand side of the graphic, which shows you that anything that looks like fuchsia is worsening conditions, speeds are getting lower, and anything that looks like cyan or blue is telling you that the speeds were improving. So we see slight improvement in speed north of the segment. And then for the 2022 period, and then some deterioration in speed on the south side of the traffic circle. Again, I looked at it for the PM period, midday period. You can tell again, anything that looks like pink or fuchsia is telling you there was some deterioration in speed. And then again, for the PM period, which we talked about, again, you're seeing the grid tells me there wasn't a full data set that was used, but for what we have, you can tell there were improvements in the northern segment of the corridor, slight improvements, and then some worsening around the LA 28 segment of the corridor. I went ahead and then did the travel time comparison, plotting it as a cumulative plot. These are all, you don't have to do this. You just have to do a few clicks of button and it does all of this graph for you. Again, 3 different time periods that I looked at. And what you see on the graph is the brown or darker color shows 2019, and then the cyan shows 2020, 2022, I apologize, this is an error on my part. And the dotted line tells you the speed limit travel time. So if you travel the corridor with the speed limit, this is where you would land about 21.5 minutes to travel the corridor. The more steep the graph is, the more reliable the distribution of crashes in the speeds in the corridor. And if the line shifts away or towards the south side or west side of the free flow speed, you're looking at conditions where a lot of the cars are coming in, driving faster than usual. And then any shift towards the right is telling you that congestion is getting worse. So this was just a way for you to look at the data in a different format. And then what I liked about this is the travel time delta ranking, which is a reliability measure. And what it's doing is it's plotting the interquartile percentage of the speed travel time with the median of the travel time on the vertical axis. And where the circle tells you 2019 fell, and then the tip of the arrow tells you where 2022 fell. And you can tell by the orientation, which is explained at the bottom of the chart here, this is a red or pink arrow, this is trending up, it means the corridor is getting worse at the location that is indicated on the graph. So this is consistent with what we've been talking about in the previous charts as well. The other suite that I used was to look at just the performance summaries. It spits out this big table that shows you all the speeds, buffer time index, planning time index, and then travel time and travel time index in the corridor. I just took a summary of those numbers and then broke them down by the time periods we're looking at. So we have the travel time index, buffer time index, and planning time index. And you can tell, looking at it, that travel time index seems to get worse consistently. It's increasing for 2022. But when you come to buffer time index, we are seeing also a consistent decrease in the buffer time index for 2022. Now that is important for us because buffer time is just the additional time that you tack onto your trip to make sure that you are getting there on time. If the corridor is notorious for uncertainty with travel time, you may tend to add more time just to ensure that you're getting to your location on time. For instance, if you have to go to an airport and travel times are not too reliable, you may budget a lot of time just to make sure you get in there on time ahead of your travel. And if the corridor is more resilient and travel time reliabilities are good, you don't have to put in as much buffer time as needed. So this is where we can begin to make some assessments and make some gains in the strategies that we use to manage and operate our roadways. And it's a metric that I'll be looking forward to. I'll be looking at a lot when I do these analyses and see where we can get some benefit. There's a constraint on how much, I mean, the travel time within the corridor is a constraint. You can change that if you're traveling the speed limit, but buffer time index gives us a good opportunity to begin to make some changes or gains in the travel time. Again, I looked at travel time indices, all those numbers that I showed. I'm looking at it spatially to see which portions of the corridor are showing any gains, any improvements, or any worsening condition. And you can see that here. And then same thing with the buffer time index. Again, we see the improvements in the buffer time index, especially on the right-hand side. It's almost throughout the corridor, we're seeing improving conditions in buffer time. Again, for planning time index, we're looking, if buffer time is improving, I expect planning time index to be improving as well, since it's just an add-on to the travel time reliability. And the key part of it that I liked a lot was the causes of congestion, looking at both 2019 and 2022, what the differences were. And it was a signal communications upgrade. So right off the bat, I jumped on to see how did the signals contribute to delays in the corridor. And in 2019, it looks like it's 12.76%. But 2022, when we looked at it, it had dropped to 9.16%, which shows about 3% or 3.5% at least a drop in delays associated with signals. I was really excited to see this number. I had reached out to the DTOE to try and find out what did you guys do differently now that you have remote communication or remote access to your controllers. And he let me know that really they hadn't done anything different than they were doing prior to 2019. I was a bit disappointed, but I'm also looking forward with optimism that one, I have the RITIS data set, which will be banked. It's archived anytime I come back. I can always go back to the pre-deployment period and look at the data. And as more data is collected, whenever our DTOEs begin to operate the signals remotely and in real time, make real-time changes as needed, we can always come back and assess this again. For now, though, I would just attribute the change in delays associated with signal to the probably the slight change in traffic patterns. I don't know, probably something that we can discuss afterwards. But for now, that is what I'm thinking. Maybe patterns change and somehow this number is showing a decrease. So in conclusion, the analysis showed us that the travel time reliability metrics that we normally use, they came out with mixed results. Travel time index and planning time index didn't really change that much. Buffer time slightly. We will continue to monitor the locations and do our evaluation. Like I said, as soon as any change in operations go into effect, we would want to go back after a period of time and make those assessments. And I think with the RITIS tool as well, we can begin to target our ITS deployments to the locations where they are really needed or where they can make real impact. And with that, I have started doing that already and using the bottleneck ranking suite or analysis tool. And it tells you where your bottlenecks are in the region, and it will rank them for you. And so with this, I can show this to our DTOs while I'm doing the stakeholder engagements to let them know, hey, these are where your issues are, so that once we fix, we know how traffic goes. Once you fix the bottleneck here, it's moving downstream to the next spot. So we can look at this more holistically, set our project scope in a manner that we can address the issues in a corridor and do so with data. So I'm really excited about this, and I look forward to collaborating with Julius on many more of the ITS deployments we've done. And hopefully I get invited back again to share some of the outcomes with you guys. Thank you all very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephen. Really appreciate it. I appreciate, just like acknowledging the nuance and complexity here. I think a lot of times we do this kind of analysis, you want to just say, oh yeah, everything improved, but it's complex. There's always a lot going on in any given location. So these tools can help us understand, but it is complex. So I appreciate that.
And I agree with you on that. One thing I didn't talk about was this was just taking a month-to-month comparison. We didn't look at whether any work zones, whether any crashes, and the tool can help you isolate some of those confounding factors that may play into the outcomes of the results. So this is great. Going forward, we know what to do, how we can isolate some of these challenges and present results that actually help us evaluate the ITS. It's exciting.
Yep, it's the beginning. It's never the end, right? There's always more to do. And as someone who works in development of the transportation improvement program, it's always great to understand how to inform our investments. We never have enough funding to address all the issues, so we have to be really strategic. So we did get a couple questions in the chat, and again, just kind of encourage folks as you're soaking in everything that was just covered. If you have additional questions, can add them. Just want to touch on one that was actually already answered by Julius, but Kelly Wells, hi Kelly, was asking just, which speed data vendor did you rely on for this analysis? And Julius noted that it was INRIX probe data in this case. So good to know that, there are some subtle differences between the different data sources. So another question that came in, which is probably one you've gotten before, and a question that we're all getting these days is, as you were looking at this and comparing 2019 to, more current conditions, how did you consider sort of COVID impacts? Travel demand was exceptionally low in most parts of the country in 2020, 2021. So how did you feel you were able to consider kind of 2019 versus 2022?
It was a challenge, and I knew that was the first thing I had to do. Just look at traffic patterns, how much they change in order to make any hypotheses about the corridor and what potentially happened. And as I showed, the traffic patterns or counts remained almost identical north of the traffic circle, but on the south side there was a drop, and so that I expected the south side to see significant improvement, but that didn't show in the analysis at all, except for the buffer times. But yes, and these counts also are not, I don't think they were real permanent count stations. So this is data that probably had been simulated using other nearby counts. So the precision probably may not be there as much as we wanted, but it's definitely a good question to ask and try to address all these outcomes or the inferences we made in the context of traffic pattern changes and increases or whatever in the corridor. Yeah,
it's a tough question that we're sort of all getting these days on any study like this. And actually a follow-up question just came in, kind of following up on that question. How did you address kind of pre-COVID, during COVID, post-COVID travel demand? Is there any specific RITIS tools that can help us kind of assess, how demand may have changed there?
I don't know, but probably the next presentation may touch on that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I think some of those new tools can really help us get at that. Another kind of technical question was, did you use XD granularity as far as the INRIX data or
Yes,
TMC? It was XD.
XD. Yep.
Yep.
1 minute.
Yeah. So you're getting a finer grain of
Yep.
data
Yep.
there. One question I had too, and it kind of relates again to like the causes of congestion. Do you have anything that you know about that area that maybe helps you understand that cause of congestion breakdown? It looked like maybe there were more crashes in the after condition. So I don't know if that's something you saw in your crash data as well, or if that was just kind of coming out in the the performance chart.
So the big limitation of this analysis, which hopefully subsequent ones we will do, is I just went straight with the data. I didn't kind of filter out any days that involve crashes or
Okay.
work
Yeah.
zones or anything like that, but the corridor, we had to do this project because it was noted for congestion related to incidents in the corridor. A lot of incidents were being reported by Louisiana State Police. And so that was the motivation for putting in the ITS, just so we can quickly detect any incidents and help with management. They have motorist assistance patrol now in the corridor. And so that should help. And if I had time and could go back, I could pick days and isolate, okay, when there was an incident, how did it take? But similar traffic patterns on a day without incident, the strategies that we use to manage the incident, what were the impacts? It looks like there's a plethora of analyses you can do to gain some insights. So I'm definitely excited, but this was just something to demonstrate that what we can do with it. And then going forward, I think we'll be much more robust in our analysis and try to account for all of these other factors that may play into it. We don't have much control, but we just have to make the best with what we can get.
Absolutely. Julius, did you have something to add there?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that this is a very, like, it was a trial for Steve to work on this and then come up with some results. And the idea is going forward, we're going to do this, we're going to spread it across more projects. It's going to have a bit more time, it's going to take more data, look more, more months maybe. We use this is very, very much of a preliminary analysis that it did. So I'm really just excited that it can be done. And like I said in the beginning, we have no way of actually knowing whether our ITS deployments were working. Basically, was it of benefit to the taxpayer? We don't know, but at least now we have a way of quantifying those and showing it to to the public, letting them know that basically this was a good investment or not. We are hoping the results will be favorable to us. So going forward, this is something that we expect to do on a lot more projects. So once again, I want to thank Steve for his work. I mean, I'm happy that he's one of the consultants who's jumped on board and really wants to use these tools for us. So thank you once again.
Yeah, and definitely would love to have you both back. As you continue to do more analysis here, like you said, this sort of identifies a lot of things for follow-up. You could imagine doing some crash analysis to see how crash patterns change. Did severity change? There might be more crashes, but they're less severe, or it might be that you're managing the corridor better. And I really thought as well, like the focus on reliability and reducing the buffer time, I think is an important message. It kind of helps us understand how to explain that to the public. It's not always possible to eliminate congestion, but I think for the public, the most frustrating thing is when it's very unpredictable. So even having that is a win, right? Improving reliability. And these tools can help us communicate that to the public. So thank you again for the presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, it doesn't look like we have any additional questions coming in. So once again, thank you, Julius and Stephen, and I guess we'll move to our next presentation here. So I will turn it over to Greg Jordan. Greg, take it away.
Thank you, Jesse, and thank you, Stephen and Julius. That was really interesting, and I'm going to give you a lot more to think about, I hope. So we're going to talk about trip analytics, and essentially what it is a a collection of, there are various databases out there. We're going to talk about INRIX a lot today, although there's other emerging sources out there. But essentially you have a subset, a sampling of actual trips on the road where you know where they started, you know the path they took, and you know where they ended. And the question is, if we had some percentage, 5 or 10% of real trips on the road, what kind of information can we get out of them? And so, once we've collected this information, how can we get information? And if the data sets have the pathways like I'm showing here, not all data sets do, but when you have pathways, there's a lot more you can do.
Excuse me, Greg, we're not
Yes.
seeing your screen right now.
That's because I did not hit share. That's a fascinating requirement here. Sorry about that. Thanks you for interrupting me before I got too far into it. Okay, how's this?
There we go. Now we see it.
Seeing the big picture.
All right, the big picture. Okay, and then you don't need, okay, so we want to learn about patterns of how things move. We're using GPS pings from all kinds of cell phones, connected vehicles, trucking fleets, and so on. And we get this, this map here. This is basically showing how each trip has a start point. It's got a pathway and an end point. And when we do have these pathways, there's a lot more information we can get out of that. And that's what we'll talk about today. Generally speaking, often you will want to have a study area that I call it a cookie cutter study area because it cuts off the tails out there. And you are only looking at what you care about inside the study area. You don't have to cookie cutter study area, but when you want to, that opens up other possibilities. So these OD databases have been used by planners for a while now, a lot of macro level stuff. But again, what we're going to talk about today is coming in very tightly and doing some really micro work. And it's really going to appeal to a lot of the operators in the audience. So I'm talking about making a cookie cutter study area, but I'm going to call it a travel time study area because that's what we're trying to get. But we'll start with this. Imagine a network of 1,000 origins in a collector network and 1,000 destinations in a distributor network. What if we were to have a study area that basically trims away the roots and trims away the branches? So you could have, in this case, only 9 origins into your study area and only 6 destinations out of your study area, which gives you a much bigger sample size for any given OD pair. Imagine that every one of these collectors had one trip that went into the system, and every destination, they all went to a different destination up there. And let's say you had 1,000 of them. Well, even though you've got so little from your OD pairs, by the time they get up here, you've consolidated them. You've got 1,000 vehicles going down the middle, and you're going to have 100, 200, 300 for each one of these, each of these legs. So that's what we're going to try to do, is exploit that. So Pennsylvania has just recently opened up a new highway, the Central Susquehanna Valley Thruway. And while we were doing our rehearsal here, Joanna, who's our co-host today, said, "Oh my God, I helped run a postcard origin destination survey for this in 1995, and it looks like they finally built the road." So this is the old way at the top. You can't read it. It says origin destination survey locations, and this is about putting postcards out to figure out where people are coming from and where they're going to. So we have, Joanna, we have a new way to do this now. So thank you for letting us know. This is the study area. Essentially, the Susquehanna River runs north of Harrisburg. And then if you want to keep going straight, this US 15 was really the only way to go up through Lewisburg and up north. And if you, and so the need for the new highway was to build this new throughway to the right. So it's a new bridge and a new throughway coming across. So we made the travel time study area such that it would encompass all of the new route and the old route so that we could compare travel times and routes between the two of them. So this is what it looks like bringing that study area into the tool. And all these pink dots are what we call OD gates. Those are where you go in and out of your study area. So those are the origins and destinations of trips that are passing through. So in order to find these trips, we have this filtering ability where we're putting a filter across the bottom that gets all trips going north to both corridors, and another filter across the top. And this looks a little bit like a hat almost, but we want to capture trips that went westbound on 80, northbound on 15, northbound on 180, and eastbound on 80. So by putting a polygon like that, we're essentially saying that the pathway of trips that took one of these two corridors from the south end to the north end, we want you to grab those trips and give them to us inside the study area so we can analyze it. So once we ran the query, this is the first, this is the results coming back, which are this is a route map that shows the number 3 route to go. You know, this was before the time to this was before it was time to go, before they built the new road. And in order to go up to Interstate 80, go east and then go north, the travel time was 20 minutes, because this is where once we open up the new road, we look at the same thing. We have the exact same where they're taking the eastern route, and the new time is 11 minutes. So basically, to go from the bottom to the north, it went from 20 minutes right there down to 11 minutes right there. So that's kind of a summary of how the tool works. I'm going to go ahead and do a live demo to just kind of show you the tool in action. So here's the study area that we talked about. This is what it looks like into the tool. This is the filtering that we talked about. And the tool lets you literally go from into those locations. And once you have generated an OD matrix, in this case, this is before, in April, 2 weeks in April on weekdays, we came up with 4,400 trips in the data set that actually made this movement. And this is where they're from and where they're to. And what we want to do now is look at those 4,408 trips using what we call a zone map. This is nothing more than looking at the numbers of that OD matrix in the form of a map. So we can look at origins. And in fact, I can show values on the map, and we see there's 4,402 that's showing coming in. And if I want to know where they went, I can go to destinations like this, and I see at the top we've got 41 round trips that actually went in, went up, and came back down. But we also had 3,532 that stayed on the main line, and I can show that as percentages. And I can also sort of zoom in on this and look at it a little closer and see exactly where these destinations were. 80%, 1%. And we had 8% of the traffic that actually went up, across, and over. Now, once the road opened, we can jump to the same view here. Okay, this is the start view right there. This is before, and this is after in December. And the 80% has gone to 30, and the 8% has gone up to 49%. So in our study area, this is the shift that we had going over there. And we already talked about the speed difference. Then for fun, I said, what did it look like in March of the following year? And an interesting thing kind of noted that we have that 49% now is down to 43%. And this 12% here, that kind of caught my eye. It was 9%, and now it's showing at 12%. There seems to be a trend of traffic, a little less going this way, and a little more going that way, which might be a little surprising. So I said, let me do this. Let me look at this in terms of a route map that we talked about before. And I can kind of zoom in like we said before. And I want to show you one of the tools that we have here. We've got all these trips here. If I go ahead and decide I want to make a screen line to count how many trips are going where, I can start here and I can draw my way across. And a screen line always adds to 100%. And what it does is it basically sums all the trips that it crossed and divides them by percentage. So if I come back here and if I open this up, I can see that in this direction, and by the way, this is direction 2, this is the flow going northbound across the line. I can also look at it the other direction if I want to, but in this case here, there 81% and very little using the ramp. If I look at the same display in December, there's that 9% we talked about. And over here it's showing 50%. And then when we go to the more recent one, there's that 12% we talked about. And I say, well, maybe I want to study more about that 12%. Are they going through, or are they going to local destinations? Is something, what is happening that number seems to be trending going up? Well, the tool allows you, what I did is I actually made a new study area. The original study area was the southern part of this, but I extended the new study area to go all the way up around the 180 to where it comes up in with 15. This is where they join in Williamsport. So that way I can look at those vehicles and I can say, where are they going? Are they through trips? And why are they doing that? And are they eating a longer travel time to do that? So when I run the route map for that, I can see this western side where it's all coming up here. But I can kind of zoom in. This is the new one. I can actually zoom in and see. And by the way, let me note this one. That's the number 1 route across the top. The median travel time is 34 minutes from bottom to top to get all the way up to Williamsport. Now, this ramp right here is the one we were talking about. What I can do is I can click on it and it's going to turn that one blue. Anything that goes through, there's 9 routes that went through there and they all turn blue up in the table. So I can go through the table and look at them. The number 3, that bottom left, that's the lowest number, is the one with the most trips. I can go up to here to number 3 and just click on number 3. And now I can see exactly what that route was. And the most common one is going up to the north, and it indeed is joining in with Interstate 180 up where 15 comes in. So these are through travelers. And why are they doing what they're doing? Well, we can come over to Route 3 over here. The 50% median travel time is 34 minutes. The other route was 34 minutes. And the reliability is the same, the 5% is the same, the average is the same. So the point is that for whatever reasons, the travel time is identical, and we have a number of drivers that are taking the new route for the first half, but then they're jumping back onto the old route for whatever reason that they're doing. So as an example of how the tool can give you insight. Next, I'm going to go back to the slides and just show a few other ways that this is being implemented recently. How about doing a travel time study area to find out whether signal retiming did any good? And if so, how much good did it do? So PennDOT actually gave us this as an example to try. And so we drew what I call a worm-shaped travel time study area along the corridor that was retimed. And then, we can actually go back and forth by direction. We can actually request it both ways. But then we exported the report that came out, and we found out that before retiming, which was in April, we had a 5 minute and 54 median travel time. And after, it was 5 minutes and 20-second travel time. And this was the morning period, 7 to 9 in the morning. And it just documented that we had 30 seconds of improvement for what that, for all that is or is not. Then we were looking at it and saying, well, one of the ways you can improve flow on a corridor is to take green time away from your cross streets. Make them pay so that you can improve the main line. And whoever checks cross street travel times anyway? Why not make the study area and put some cross streets on there and test those at the same time? So we can literally go into each of these cross streets and test it in both directions and see whether or not our retiming has been at the expense of the cross streets. So here's an example of the southbound direction, and the before is on top and the after is on the bottom. And look at the 50% and the 95th percentile. Both of those showed an improvement. And I will say that we tested about 6 of these, and all but one of them showed an improvement. The one that didn't show an improvement, and we didn't test all of them, but the one that didn't show improvement was this one in the other direction. And we recognized that this was an evening, 4 to 6 p.m., and it was right before Christmas. It was the November 28th to December 22nd. It's basically the holiday season when traffic is generally up. And this is the King of Prussia Mall right here. So it stands to reason that that one wouldn't, that might become degraded. So it may be that if we ran this more, more times, we would get a lot more insight as to the effects of that. So I have a few other things to show. And let's see, how about last mile travel time analysis? This was the Army-Navy game last December. And what we did, we said, let's make a travel time study area that looks like a donut. And we've got stadium parking district in the center. This is Lincoln Financial Field where the game was. But what about this travel time approaching the stadium district? What routes did vehicles take and what was their travel times? So, we created that, and then we made two filters. We made a cordon line filter around the outside, and we said, this is our from filter, find trips that intersected that, and then went into the parking district. And when you have them, plot them into this space so we can see where they went and what routes they took and what their travel times were. So this is what it looks like. We found 397 trips in the database. This is a sampling of real world trips that went to the Army-Navy game last December. Just about 400 of them. And this is everywhere they went. If we want to clean it up, we can say, just show us routes with 2 or more trips. That way we get to look at the major ones only. Once we've done that, we have the ability to go and click on any spot and we can see the routes that went through there. Now they are all turned blue, but if I go to these numbers one at a time, I can go up to them here and click on them and look at those one at a time to document where they're going. I can export the tables, and then I can literally look at each of the routes. So the number one, the route with most trips, 54 trips, followed this route number 1 from the south, and its average speed was 28 miles an hour, and it took it 5 minutes and 31 seconds to get there. So that was number 1. Number 2 is coming basically a freeway across the Walt Whitman Bridge. And that was 59 miles an hour, even with the time it took to exit and get into the parking district. Number 3 was coming down 95 and then looping around the south end of the area. And you actually had to exit and go on some local streets and sit through a queue, but you were still averaging 32 miles an hour overall before you actually entered the zone. So that was number 3. There's number 4, and there's number 5. So I've got about a minute left. I want to tell you about one more. Actually, no, I took that. Well, I probably don't have enough time. There's one more I can show, but let's see if there's any question and answer first. And then if we have time, I can go to the other one.
Sounds good. How are we doing on time, Joanna? If we're good, we do have a couple questions.
Yeah, I think we have just a couple minutes, so if we could.
Okay.
Okay, so let's hit the questions real quick. One question is coming from Patrick Ziliakus. He says, Greg, can I capture this by time of day, maybe on an hour by hour basis to kind of get more, I guess, granular with the analysis here?
The filters allow you to pick whatever time period you want. And those time periods are applied. If you have a tiny little gate spatial filter, then if you say I want 7 to 8 in the morning through that gate filter, then it says which trips went through the gate between 7 and 8 in the morning. So the answer is yes.
Great. And then we have a couple of questions from Han Zhang. First question, it seems like only route map mode provides trip counts by vehicle type. Is it possible to include this level of detail for other report types, such as OD matrix or zone map? Right now, if I open up results as an OD matrix or zone map, it only provides the total counts of whatever the selected vehicle type is. So if I need to get separate truck or passenger car ODs, you had to run separate analysis.
The way the tools is right now, you need to run separate analyses. It's important to understand that at least in this database, there is no attempt to balance the number of samples by vehicle class. In other words, in this case, we're using the INRIX trip paths data set. They give you all the trucks, they give you all the cars that they have, and they're not subtracting or balancing or modeling or mathematically changing those numbers to make them mode balanced. So it's up to the analyst to take sample counts and then decide what an appropriate expansion factor is. So these are not volumes. But specifically to your question, you need to run the reports multiple ways right now to get that information.
Just a quick time check, Joanna, do you want to have us answer the last question in the chat? Just
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. I think we have.
Okay. Yeah, there's one more in the chat for you, Greg, when we wrap up here. But thank you, really interesting presentation. These tools are so powerful. Really appreciate the use cases to kind of help us wrap our heads around it. Also, there's a lot of, I love the Philadelphia example, obviously being here in Philadelphia, and there's a lot of work to like reimagine the interchanges around there. So I'm gonna have to let some folks know about this presentation because I think it could really inform some of the reconstruction that's planned for I-95 in that area. So thank you.
Great.
So moving along, I'm going to hand it over to John next for some PDA Suite performance reporting working group updates. So take it away, John.
All right, thanks, Jesse. Let me just share my screen real quick. You hear me okay? And can you see my screen?
We
Yep.
can.
Awesome. Okay. Hi, everyone. I just wanted to give you all a quick update about what we've been doing for performance reporting with our working group as well as at the CATT lab. So the first thing is we've released the holiday travel forecasting reporting package. I like to call it a package and not just a template because there's many elements that go into this particular template group. So for example, if you wanted to access this, for those of you who are new, you go to the RITIS landing page with your, with your slide deck that you'll get later. You can click on this, it takes you to the RITIS landing page, which will take you to the template page. So if you look at this, you come over here to the holiday travel forecast button, and you want to click on that. And basically gives you an overview of the template that you'll be building. You can download that, as well as a design resource, which there are a number of different things that you could use to help build your template. There's icons, there's graphics. And in this particular case with holiday travel forecasting, there's a great package in there that we put in from GDOT because they're very active and proactive about putting this information out there prior to holidays that would really help you. Like, for example, suggested social media content and things like that. And then below that are a number of different use case examples that you can click on and see how other people are doing the same kind of travel forecasting, just different formats, focusing on different things. Pick a style that you like the best. Some of the tools that we use in the report, you can click on these links and get to a video to watch it and see how the tool is used in case you're not familiar with it yet. Some design recommendations we always put out there to help you build it and make it the most effective. And then there's a number of different steps of how to create these reports. And we start all the way from clicking on the template, using the design resources, grabbing some of those icons I talked about, building all the networks that you're going to be analyzing. And you can click on any of these plus signs on the magnifying glasses to blow up so you can read what's on there. And you just step through this process. We try to make it as easy and understandable and comprehensive as we can to make sure that you can go through this thing and build these templates. And of course, at the end here, then you have your finished product of something you can post online. So that's the holiday travel forecasting template. Check it out. We have Memorial Day coming up, and then 4th of July, and then Labor Day. So it's a good time to go there and check these things out, maybe build some forecasting templates for folks if your area has a lot of holiday travel during those times. So now that we have those 6 different templates out of the way, our next one that we're going to focus on is for work zone reporting. This is probably the most challenging template we have. There's a lot of moving parts to work zones, a lot of complicated things. But we have a meeting next week with the performance reporting working group to start tackling these things. I've put a number of different example templates out there or reports out there in the past, but we want to take a fresh look at the stuff. There's a lot of new information out there. For example, just this past March, Mark Franz and I presented at the FHWA's workshop for data-driven work zone performance management. It was a terrific workshop, a lot of good content from other agencies talking about their state of practices in managing work zones. And there's also a terrific report that went along with that that summarizes the discussions, mainly pertaining to what are you doing? What are you doing right? What are you doing wrong? What are the things that you need? And that's really going to help us define and refine our work zone templates. Have one mocked up already for a daily work zone report. Want to get another one done for a weekly, and then we're going to sit down, look at that, react to that, consider this other information, and then go and move forward with it. The other thing we're plugged into is what Bob's going to talk about a little bit later is the automated work zone reporting. So we have a group that's from the RITIS enhancement user group that's involved in this particular effort, and we're plugged into the UX or user experience group at the CATT lab that is doing the design iterations for that particular reporting. So, you know, we're kind of plugged into a lot of different things, and I think in the end we'll come up with some really useful and easy to understand and easy to read information, because there's 2 really levels we're looking at. Stakeholders, for example, if you have the trucking industry or AAA wants to know information, and then there's the executives in your agency. So we try to make these things as simple and easy to understand, yet giving you robust information so you can really tell the story and look at the things that you need to look at. This is just an example of some of the areas that we're looking at to build these templates. We considered this in the building of this daily mock-up that I talked about earlier, looking at some of this too for the automated work zone reporting. So this isn't like an end-all be-all list, but this is just a starting point for those 2 reporting efforts. Greg did a terrific job just then talking about the use of the trip analytics. He also did a workshop, and Denise mentioned this too, back in April. All I want to say about this, I highly recommend going to look at that workshop, because Greg talked about a number of different things that I think will really help bring good information to both planners and operators about how to use these tools. So down at the bottom there, you can see, you click on this link here and scroll down to the workshops and working groups in the coalition's website that includes RITIS and PDA suite. So I highly recommend you checking that out, watching the video. And lastly, our training master, Rick Ayers, has been going around to different agencies and doing sessions on using the RITIS reporting templates. So if you've ever had an opportunity to listen to Rick step through these things, he's great. He really hits the nail on the head. He takes applicable situations in each agency's area and puts it out there. And he's gotten a lot of positive feedback for doing this. What I mean down here by on-demand data drill down is what Rick will do and what we do is add hyperlinks into areas that might make the most sense that you want to drill down. For example, if you're prepping for an executive meeting, you're sitting with your staff, you look at the high-level summary report, but if you say, okay, there's a big accident here that caused incredible congestion along I-95 South, and you look at the other days, there's nothing going on, but we also notice here on 6th Avenue, there's a big backup here. Is that because people are coming down here and bypassing this? Is this an alternate route that we've marked? Is this something that they just did on their own? You could talk about that, figure that out. You can go down here and look at our incident timeline for this situation and look at things like did we have the appropriate messages on our DMS at the appropriate times? We noticed that the tow truck got there late in the game. Why was that? Was there an issue with the tow trucks in terms of the ones we have available? Was it the traffic? So you can really drill down during your upfront meeting before the executive meeting, get all these answers to your questions, but you could also use it later so that you can, if the executives have a question about something, show them this active, detailed mapping and things like that, but it's pretty easy to read and understand, and get into more of the answers to their questions. So like I said, Rick's done a really terrific job in presenting different situations. The one on the right's for doing a quarterly bottleneck corridor report. So highly recommend you guys check out the templates and start using them. If there's questions or concerns you have about using them, you can email Rick or I about them, and we'll be glad to help you out. That's all I have, Jesse. Back to you.
Thanks, John. It's really, it's so impressive to see how far these templates have come. Just a lot of great work, hopefully saving people a lot of time. I think in the interest of time, we're going to launch right into our next presentation here for Bob. But if anybody has questions for John, just put them in the chat and he can answer them there. And again, just encourage everyone to use these tools and let us know how you use these templates going forward. So with that, I'll hand it off to you, Bob. Not hearing you yet, Bob. Yeah, I've got video, but no audio yet here. Michael, you want to give us an overview while Bob's getting his audio working?
While Bob looks great. Bob, you just move your mouth and I'll talk.
Yeah, right.
Be doing that. If we hear Bob talk, I will stop talking. Yeah, Bob's the chair of our RITIS Product Enhancement Working Group. Next slide. And the purpose of this enhancement group is to essentially provide funding and guidance on what we should be doing with RITIS to add new what new features should we be adding, how should we prioritize everything, and connecting agencies that have similar needs and making sure we're building things that's going to work for a lot of folks. Next slide. So we've been doing this now for a couple of years. We are in the middle right now of our development and deployment, and we're about to tell you about everything that we've been deploying lately, and things that are about to be deployed. We're also now getting close to the point where we're trying to determine which agencies are going to be able to contribute funding for next year, so we can understand how much funding we have, so that when we start getting prioritization requests, we know essentially how much work we can tackle. Next. So this is just an overview of where we are. I'm going to go into details in a minute, but we've deployed 6 different features thus far, and we're getting close to oh, was that Bob?
Can you hear me now?
We can.
Bob, go ahead,
I'm
Bob.
really sorry about that. I don't know. It worked fine when we tested it a few minutes ago, but yeah, I can just pick up where Michael left off here. Sorry about that. Yeah, like Michael just said, we've got. It's great to see more green check marks with each passing meeting. So that's really good. So kudos to the CATT Lab for making some really good progress here. I'll just summarize a couple of these real quickly, and then I'll turn it over to Michael for some more details on this. So yeah, everything that's checked, the aerial photography, we've talked about that before. That's like just satellite images, just like in Google Maps. The reporting templates are done, speed tile layers, causes of congestion, trip analytics. You've heard a lot about that already in Greg's great presentation on April 20th. The click map or the map click corridor selection, that's done as well. Next slide. We'll just go over a couple of these real quick. Next slide, please, Joanna. Oh, there we go. Thank you. So yeah, the automated work zone reporting, you just heard a little bit about that. We've come up with some initial internal designs, and we're meeting to review and discuss and make more suggestions. I think we've got a call out for a new meeting. We're going quickly through this here. Let's keep skipping here. Congestion only layer. This is part of the speed tile layer options. It started out originally with just a range of speeds and comparative speeds. And now you're able to display only the congested segments. This definitely declutters the map and lets you just focus on the problem areas. So that's great. Next slide. We're going to, okay, this is still toggling through here.
Sounds like there's a little bit of a delay on your end, Bob. We're seeing the road weather tile layer options now.
Oh, really? Oh, geez. It's my computer then. Okay, there we go. Now I'm on road. So yeah, road layer options. This is almost done. Also on the traffic map here, you'll soon have the option of selecting road weather data. So that's moving along. Next slide. I apologize for my computer that I've minimized, or I've dropped as many windows as I can here, and it's still not working. So that sharing of dashboards and reports. This is still development. It involves fairly complex programming, credentials and security clearances and so forth. But we've talked about this before. The goal is to allow an agency to share these dashboards with whomever they designate, mostly internal at first, but then hopefully outside agencies as well. Next slide. Templates. I'm not seeing templates yet. Hopefully soon. Templates. We've talked about the templates already. John showed some examples already, like the holiday travel forecast and the work zone reporting. Next slide. Yeah, we already talked about automated work zone reporting, so I think this is a duplicate slide. So next. Congestion, causes of congestion. This is deployed. This is we've talked about this. It's a deeper dive on congestion. Mark Franz has done a lot of good work with this CCG tool.
Can I mention something about this one, Bob?
Yeah, and actually, Michael, why don't you just take over from here, because my computer really is not working well.
Oh, that's a bummer. Well, you're doing a good job.
I apologize for that, everyone.
That's all right.
Yeah, go ahead, Michael.
So with the cause of congestion, while this tool's been out for a while, we did just deploy several updates to it. So before, you could see, the incidents related were a cause of 6% of the congestion, work zones 5%, and so on and so forth. But lower down on the list, you'd have multi-cause congestion. So you might have incidents that occurred in a work zone, or incidents that occurred in a work zone while it was raining, and during a holiday. You can have all these different permutations of incidents and other causes. And we know that some people might just care about incidents. So now what we do is we give you a range. Like, so here on this particular graphic, incidents were definitely the cause of at least 6% of all the congestion on these roadways here. But if you look at the multi-cause events and you add it up, it could be as high as 86%. So if you're trying to justify a budget for incident management, you probably want to use that 86% number instead of just the 6% number. Next slide. We have all sorts of new filtering capabilities and tables built into the causes of congestion graphs tool as well. Next slide. And then we've also dumped the cause of congestion data into the Treeversity application, which allows you to look at how congestion causes and the amount of congestion is changing per state, per road class, and how each cause affects each road. And you can go month by month and you can see how things change throughout time. It's a really neat application. It takes a little while to learn how to use it, but also lets you filter down and just looks like here I'm looking just at Florida and how much of the congestion is recurrent versus non-recurrent. And there's all sorts of other filters and high-level overviews that you can do with this. This might require its own spotlight presentation one day just to show how this is how this can be used. Next, please.
And Michael, is this all being updated weekly now? We talked about that last meeting.
Good question. So we are in the process of updating the data so it'll be weekly. So behind the scenes, we're cranking through all the numbers, and I think within the next week or so, we will deploy data so that you'll see things through like 10 days ago, and then every week we'll update it again. You'll see the week before that, the week before that. So you're never going to see real-time data, at least never until we get better hardware. But for now, it's going to be about a week old. Good question.
Okay.
Next slide. Map click corridor selection. This is in development right now. We've talked about this in the past, but you go to the next slide. I think there's here's an example of what the user interface looks like. You're essentially going to have a new option over on the left-hand side of the screen. You can see where it says like, instead of just roads, regions, list of TMC codes, and save TMC sets, now there's going to be a route selection. When you click on that, you'll then be able to click anywhere on the map. It'll select a segment, and then hit next, please. And then as you start to then click on another segment that you care about, next, it will then start to join those routes together automatically. Next, please. Here's just an example of what it looks like. It's still in development right now, but we're getting very close. I think in probably in late June we'll have this deployed. Next slide, please. Corridor speed bands. This is a brand new tool, and this is almost complete. I think we're entering the testing phase next week. So I expect by the end of this month, this particular visualization and tool will be deployed in the Pro Data Analytics Suite. Next. We'll start going kind of fast through these, but in the police crash data is the safety analytics and event query tool. Next, please. So I think most of you probably use the event query tool. It's how you can go in and look at past ATMS event data, disabled vehicles, work zones, all that sort of stuff. Now you'll be able to go in and also look at safety data. So police crash data, and the table will become kind of interactive. So now we can see that there's a crash with two vehicles involved and one person in each vehicle, or two people in each vehicle, depending on the crash. Next slide, please. You'll be able to look at an entire corridor and say, show me along the corridor for every single mile, how many crashes are occurring on each mile segment of a particular roadway to try to figure out which sections of the roadway are the most dangerous. Next. There will be crash summary reports that you can produce real quickly and then print out and take to a meeting or something like that, or email to someone. Next slide. Heat maps and other types of interactive maps, just like we have today, but using more information from the police crash data sets. Next. And so that's still very much in development, and that's not going to be complete till sometime in the late fall, I believe. And that's being funded by a separate grant. It's actually not part of the RITIS user group, but the RITIS user group is giving us input into the features that should be there. Next, please. And so there's other things, of course, that we've been working on, some of them big, some of them small. Next slide, please. We do not have enough time to go over all of them today. I think we're at our time limit right now. So these are links. If you want to know what's going on in the Probe Data Analytics Suite, you can click the top link, Trips Analytics, below that, Signal Analytics, and then everything else in RITIS is all right there. You click these links and it will tell you exactly what we've been working on and what's been deployed. And that gets updated every single time there's any sort of deployment. We're putting those in the chat box right now, so you'll have access to them. And of course, you'll get access to these slides and the video later as well. And I see there is a question. The question came and says, are congestion causes updates only available to full RITIS members? So right now the answer is yes. So there is a free version of the cause of congestion tool, which is available. I think it's just congestioncauses.ritis.org. That is what the Bureau of Transportation Statistics funded. It just looks at calendar year 2019 data. It looks at state level and county level data for that entire year, month to month. The deep dive congestion causes tool, which we were just showing, is part of the Probe Data Analytics Suite. So if you're a Probe Data Analytics Suite user who is also providing us with your agency's incident and event data, because you're a full RITIS member, then that becomes available to you as well. So Grant, I don't know which agency you're from, but if you let me know, we can help you figure out how close your agency may or may not be to getting access to that. And the reason for that is we essentially have to know, we have to have probe data coming to us, every minute of every day, so we can compute all the congestion locations. And then we have to have the crash and weather and other event data to be able to compute what's actually causing things. All right, so we're at the end. We've got a couple of poll questions. Jesse, I'll let you take over again.
Do we want to try to do these polls real quick? Okay, I see it's going up. All right. So this is another open-ended one, and thank you for everyone who's hanging around for a few extra minutes here. Really appreciate it. Here we're just wanting to know what kinds of things you're currently doing with RITIS. Planning, operations, presentations you're working on, projects, funding justification, anything you might be willing to share at a future meeting. Again, we're always looking for presentations. We appreciate everyone doing great work and want to highlight that work. It's a real opportunity to get to share that work with your peers all around the country. So we'll give folks a little bit of time here to enter anything that you're working on related to RITIS and all these various tools. Just again, appreciate all the updates. It's pretty amazing how much improvement there always is with all of these tools. There's just so much going on at any given time. So really appreciate all of that. And again, just really want to know what you're doing with these tools, and would love to have presentations in the future.
I think, Jesse, at the same time, we could keep this open, and if anybody has features or functionality they'd like to see added to RITIS, you could certainly put that right into the Q&A, and we'll kind of handle that as a poll too. This way we can kind of keep both of them open. So if you feel like there's something you want to see in RITIS, just type it in there and, we'll make sure it all gets recorded. So just giving folks a few more minutes on poll 4, but if you'd rather start on poll 5 because you have to jump to another meeting, please just put it into the Q&A.
Jesse, can I have 10 seconds here while
Absolutely.
we're waiting?
Go ahead, Bob.
Which I would have talked about earlier. Just my standard plug for more funding. You saw we've got 5 DOTs that contribute to the RITIS enhancement group, and we're always looking for more. And as you saw may have seen in the timeline, we're going to start the funding cycle again this summer. So typically, what the contribution per year is between 50 and 100,000, but any amount is fine. And remember that for DOTs, you should be able to use SPR funds for this. You just need your state's Federal Highway Division to approve it. That's what we've done here in Massachusetts. And so really encourage people to think seriously about that. We always need more funding to continue this great work that the CATT Lab's doing.
Thanks, Bob. Yeah, funding always helps, right? And even bringing the ideas forward and helping us understand what is a priority, and then that little bit of funding to help build out some of these things is really just very helpful. So appreciate all the work, and thanks for powering through the technical difficulties there, Bob and Michael.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Stepping in, it's part of the fun of doing it over Zoom, right? But it worked out. So again, we're just kind of leaving some of these polls up a little bit longer, and appreciate everybody sticking with us for a few extra minutes here. Looks like we've got poll 5 open here. Again, looking for future ideas, functionality that would make your life easier. Are there certain reports that you run all the time, and there might be an easier way to do that? Any kind of enhancement like that, really valuable to the team here to understand how people are using the tools and how they can enhance them to make everything easier for all of us. We've all got tons of work these days, so anything that helps streamline things is a huge benefit. So appreciate any feedback that people have there.
Yes. So we're going to say I think we're going to say thank you at this point, but we're going to leave the poll open for now.
Okay, we'll leave that open as folks drop off. Again, thanks to all of our presenters today. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Thanks for all your feedback and all the great discussion. Have a great week, everybody, and we'll see you for the next one of these webinars. But again, we'll leave these up for a minute as folks sign off just to get last input here. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Jesse.